Greetings and salutations, comrades. So, I had the unfortunate displeasure of watching an interview that Laura Flanders gave on her YouTube program, where she was interviewing AOC and Noam Chomsky. I don't know why I did this. Frankly, I think I did it just to see what of a horror show it was going to be, and it lived up to to what I thought it would be, frankly. Um, I don't know. I mean, because again, we have a couple weeks ago when Chomsky was on Primo Radical saying that the unvaccinated should just be pushed to the edges of society and just like fuck them, they can just go in the woods and die. And then we have AOC, just the complete and utter hack, never willing to stand up and fight for anything if it goes against democratic leadership, whether that's saying she'll defer to party leadership on U.S. imperialism in Venezuela, or not forcing the vote for Medicare for all, or voting present to fund Israel's Iron Dome, etc., standing John McCain. So again, I wasn't expecting a whole lot, and I mean, Chomsky, obviously he has done and put out some decent work in the past. I almost feel like he's somewhat irrelevant at this point, and I think a good chunk of this interview just kind of shows that, right? And so Laura Flanders brought up, I just took some notes here, brought up the how Chomsky was one of the authors of Manufacturing Consent, that book. And I wrote down, Chomsky manufactures consent for the Democratic Party. He's always about the vote blue, no matter who. This is the most important election of our lifetime. You always got to vote for the lesser of two evils. So he's always manufacturing consent to stay within this fucking duopoly. His thing is, you got three choices. You vote for the Democrats, that's the lesser two evils. You vote for Republicans, or you don't vote at all. Again, there's other fucking options. Maybe trying to build up power outside the corporate duopoly so we can actually get some fucking progress. Again, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, Chomsky, and expecting different results. You're an intelligent person. You think he would understand that, right? And then Chomsky said that, quote, greatly admiring what you have been doing, to AOC. What exactly has AOC done that is so admirable? Let me know, because I don't think there is a whole lot, frankly. I think she goes along to get along, and maybe she had a more radical perspective and outlook and way how she carried herself before she got elected, but that shit has been out the fucking door since day fucking one, right? And AOC said, well, this is an honor. It's a culminating moment to meet Chomsky. And then they talked about how, AOC beat Joe Crowley that first time around. He was one of the higher ups in the Democratic Party. And again, I think one of the reasons she was able to do that is because the establishment, correctly did not view her, I should say, as any type of threat to the status quo. And we've seen that to be very true with her time in office, right? And she was talking about, the capitalist systems and the establishment. Like, she is part of the establishment. She supports capitalism. She supports U.S. imperialism. And as Lenin said, imperialism is the highest stage of capitalism. So, and she ain't no fucking socialist, that's for goddamn sure. They talked about labor strikes and, white supremacy. But they didn't seem to make the connection, which I think is always very important, that capitalism is directly tied to white supremacy, right? You can't get rid of white supremacy without getting rid of capitalism, right? And then the host, Laura Flanders, talked about, well, we need to address white male supremacy. Chomsky said it's a deep current in U.S., not going to be an easy struggle. And then I wrote, capitalism, dog, like it goes hand in hand. We got to get rid of capitalism if we want to get rid of white supremacy, right? Host brought up AOC's Green No Deal resolution. AOC's said that resolutions, absolutely, or no, Chomsky said AOC's Green New Deal resolution is absolutely essential for survival. What exactly is the Democratic Party doing to fight for the survival of the human species besides, Joe Biden falling asleep at that, what is it, the COP26 climate summit, and offering these very, very small measures that will do nothing of substance to address this existential crisis, as Chomsky rightly points it out. But vote blue no matter who, right? The manufacturer of consent, Chomsky, right? It's a resolution not just limited to electoralism. Okay, where are you at, AOC? How come we didn't hear you speaking up about the march for Medicare for all if you support, healthcare as a human right, you fucking hack? Let's see, Chomsky, part of the main part of politics is activism and mobilization. He brought up the Sunrise Movement and how, I think, they went into AOC's or into Pelosi's office and they didn't get kicked out because AOC was with them. I find it pretty revealing they didn't bring up the Met Gala at all, and how while AOC was hobnobbing with the wealthy, with the rich, with the elite, with the capitalist class, Black Lives Matter protesters and people protesting the obscene nature of the Met Gala were getting brutalized by the NYPD, where AOC wasn't out in the streets then, but she was there with the Sunrise Movement for that photo op, right? And then Chomsky was talking about weren't thrown out because AOC was there. Biden's climate is better. It's, not enough, but it's better than anything before. But again, better than anything before still ain't gonna fucking cut it if the climate change is this existential crisis, as Chomsky rightly claims it is, right? That is the problem of just having this myopic worldview. It's either you vote for the Democrats, you don't vote, or you vote for the, right wing, the far right, because again, the Democratic Party is a right wing party. Let's see. And then the host said, how does AOC retain outsiderism, freshness? And I wrote in parentheses, how she's not a fucking outsider at all. Look at the fucking Met Gala, for God fucking sakes, dude. Somebody who is actually a champion of the working class would have said, no, that's a really fucking bad look. I'm not going to be in there with these wealthy, powerful assholes while people are getting brutalized on the outside by the fucking police state. That's fucked up. If I'm going to be anywhere, I'm going to be out on those streets. She's not an outsider. Again, she said she would defer to party leadership on U.S. imperialism in Venezuela. She also voted to fund, or to make sure, if Trump would have done it, that he wouldn't have been able to direct any funds away from funding NATO. I mean, she voted for the bloated Pentagon budget in 2019. She voted president on Israel's Iron Dome. She's an absolute hack. She's not an outsider. And she talked about the Progressive Caucus, how it has 95 members. What did they prioritize? I think this was in reference to the Build Back Better bill, the reconciliation bill. And so I wrote, what did they prioritize? It was fucking gutted. They took out expanding, Medicare. I think it's only hearing now, right? They took out vision, dental, teeth, being able to see, kind of fucking important. That's gone. Free community college is gone. They took out all of these provisions, and you're just left with a fucking shit sandwich which the Democrats will just try to wrap in a bow, right? Chomsky, let's see. Oh yeah, he brought up Howard Zinn, the author of the People's History of the United States. This really great book, highly recommend it. But I wrote down that one of the things that Howard Zinn said is that you can't be neutral on a moving train, and yet that's exactly what AOC tried to do with voting present, for the Iron Dome funding to give the apartheid state of of Israel, an additional $1 billion for the Iron Dome. She voted president. But Chomsky, she thinks she's so courageous and has done such a great job. He's obviously not going to call her out on that. Laura Flanders is obviously not going to call her out on any of this bullshit. That's why, they both were on that panel, because they think AOC is just this fucking magical politician that we need to uphold, that we need to put up on this pedestal, when she has absolutely turned her back time and time again on the working class, whether it's here in the imperial core or all the people in the global south who are impacted by, U.S. imperialism, right? And then she talked about, there's worker co-ops in her district. How do we scale solutions? Hope creates action. Action creates hope. And again, it's just like, okay, that sounds good. What does that actually mean? And what kind of solutions are you actually scaling in Congress, AOC, when you just go along to get along? When you're not willing to speak, truth to power when it goes against your career ambitions, like voting president for Israel's Iron Dome, or saying you'll defer to party leadership on U.S. imperialism in Venezuela, how you were characterizing, what was going on in Venezuela as an issue of democracy versus authoritarianism, trying to paint the Maduro regime as being authoritarian. Keep Venezuela, keep Maduro out your fucking mouth. You are an absolute imperialist hack. Again, you voted to fund NATO. You voted to fund the bloated, disgusting military budget in 2019. You wouldn't force the vote for Medicare for All. You didn't say a peep about the March for Medicare for All rallies. So you're not scaling any solutions. But AOC and politicians like her do a really good job of being able to tap into that activist lingo, like, yes, we feel your pain, we see you, hope creates action, action creates hope. Well, it's just a complete lack of action on their part to actually do anything to challenge power, to challenge the status quo, to challenge the establishment, to challenge these capitalist systems, because they're very comfortable. Again, politicians like AOC make what, $174,000 a year. They have amazing health care, retirement, all these benefits, while we can't even get a fucking $15 minimum wage. Again, where was she creating action that would lead to some hope for getting people a $15 minimum wage, right? Nor to be fucking seen. Just like now, when the Build Back bullshit has been absolutely gutted, it's a measly 1.75 trillion over 10 years, and they've taken out all of the most popular measures, like negotiating prescription drug prices, expanding Medicare to include vision and dental, paid family leave, paid time off, all these hugely popular issues. But where was her action that was creating hope on that? Nowhere to be fucking found. And of course, Chomsky and Laura Flanders weren't going to call her out on that, but I sure as hell am, because it's important. Like, these politicians are not our friends. They're not these heroic figures. They're people who need to be held to account as much as possible, because they're always going to, more often than not, protect their own interests, their own political interests, their own class interest, before looking out for the best interest of the working class. And AOC definitely falls into that category, right? So this was just softball interview, just full of platitudes, and yeah, Noam, you're so great, and Noam was saying to AOC, yeah, you're so great and courageous. And the host Laura Flanders is definitely engaging in gassing these two up as much as possible. So, right, bullshit interview, don't do it. It's a waste of your time unless you watch it to mock it like I did, right? Like the video if you like the damn video, subscribe for more content, all part of the people. Peace, much love. Quick shout out to the 2 Uber comrades supporting my channel, this content, Patreon, partner, and independent left news. Definitely check them out. Peace.